big deal if you had a dinner party. The whole community would look and see who's there, and are they sitting close to the host? Because it was a huge compliment to someone when you share a meal with them or when you invite them to a dinner gathering. This kind of was an impromptu gathering, so it probably wasn't a big community event, but who sits where matters. And normally for a dinner party or just a meal, if you have a guest in your home, probably the male would be the head of the household, and one of the two people involved that own the home or live there would take the bread and distribute it. They would do the customary dinner prayers. They would bless the food. They would break the bread, and then they would distribute the bread, the wine, whatever else they were having to eat. Normally, the host breaks the bread. Jesus is the guest. These two people are the hosts. But the story doesn't play out that way. Look what happens. When Jesus was at the table with them, the guest, Jesus, like he owns the joint, he's like, I got this, guys. Sits down at the head of the table, just grabs the loaf of bread, just like he did the night before he died with his disciples. And maybe these two were in the room when he did it. He broke it, and he began to give it to them. Then, at that moment, their eyes were opened, and they recognized him. And I think it probably happened something like this.
What just happened? Cleopas, did you see that? Either I'm crazy or that man just disappeared.
Anna, you're not crazy. I mean, he was just here breaking bread for dinner, and then poof, he's gone. And you know what's crazier than that? Is that I think I knew who that was, but the disciples would never believe us.
Don't even say his name. We just came from Jerusalem where they killed him. People don't just disappear if they're real, and they don't raise from the dead.
So what are you saying, Anna, that we're both hallucinating the same exact thing?
I'm saying we're in shock. We're in mourning. Our eyes are seeing what they want to see.
Okay, well, let's just review what happened. I mean, when we were on the road from Jerusalem, our hearts were heavy and filled with grief from leaving the disciples in that upper room.
The three women had just come from the tomb with the sad news that his body was gone. Mary Magdalene, his mother Mary, and Joanna.
You know, but that wasn't the only thing the three women said. It said there were two angels in the tomb who spoke to them saying, "Why seek the living among the dead? For he is not here, because he has risen. And remember what he told you during your time in Galilee. For the Son of Man must be delivered to the hands of sinners, be crucified, and on the third day be raised again."
Couldn't they have just been seeing things too? Everybody wishes that Jesus. Look, we all miss him and want him back. But the reality is, the disciples were suspicious too.
Yeah, that's true, except for Peter and John. They ran to go see for themselves.
And maybe they saw Moses and Elijah, maybe another angel, or the tooth fairy. But visions aren't going to bring him back.
Yeah, but when he came up on the road behind us, he acted like he had no idea what had just happened in Jerusalem. But then when I told him, he acted like he knew all along. Hey, don't you remember that?
Yeah. So,
doesn't that remind you of anybody? Anybody who loves to provide lessons and ask questions even though he already knows the answer? You know, to teach us.
yes, lots of teachers do that. The rabbis do that. The Pharisees do that. It's called the Socratic method, dummy. So I'm guessing Socrates did it too. Heck, my mother does that. I wonder who forgot to do the dishes today. I wonder who that could be.
Okay, but Anna, that's how he taught. And you know it.
Yes, and I loved that about him. At least when he was doing that to someone else.
You know, when we were on the road and we brought up how his crucifixion crushed our hopes and dreams, he said we were foolish and slow of heart to believe.
He did say that, didn't he? How incredibly rude.
But then,
he spoke of the scriptures in such a way that I've never heard before. He made quite the case that everything had happened for a reason and was in God's plan. I have to admit, I almost believed him.
and you know, when he talked about the scriptures, when he opened them up to us, my heart also opened, and all that grief and pain and sorrow that I felt just melted away. And in that moment, all I felt was hope.
I felt it too, which is why I begged him to come and stay with us when we got here to Emmaus. It was so nice to have someone bring some comfort in our grief.
You know, and he gladly came to be our guest, even though he knew how dangerous it was to walk alone at night.
Did you notice how he sat at the head of the table when dinner was ready?
You know, and I did, and for some reason, it just felt right.
And did you notice how he treated us like we were his guests as he grabbed the bread, broke it, and blessed it? It was like he was the host.
I mean, it was like we were in his home.
It was like he was in charge.
And that's when I recognized him.
And that's when he disappeared. People don't just do that.
Anna, I mean, he explained everything to us. Even the prophets foretold his death and his being raised. I mean, couldn't it be that we're witnessing God's plan before our very eyes at our kitchen table? I mean, couldn't it be possible that he really is back?
That would mean that he could be anywhere, anytime.
And that means he can do anything for anyone. Anna, what are you doing?
Grab your cloak, Cleopas. We're going back to Jerusalem.
Tonight? Why?
We need to find out what Peter and John found at the tomb, and we need to tell them what happened here. If they saw him too, we know that this is real.
So you're saying you believe it?
Maybe. Maybe.
Sometimes you just have to stop in a moment of Scripture and just imagine just what were the dynamics. What could that have been like, this story as it unfolded?